attached to the K-State Advanced Manufacturing Institute. Most people out in the community think I'm an extension, and I probably should be an extension for what I actually do. But I'm kind of a one-man show out on the road for AMI. The Advanced Manufacturing Institute at K-State is a misnomer. We have a really bad name. We are aware of that problem. But we do regional economic development in addition to working with companies on engineering assistance and helping them develop new products, improve their products, and essentially grow their businesses. So we sort of have two sides of the shop. We're located right across from the Pizza Ranch out on McCall Road. We have a very, very large building that looks small from the road, but we do work with companies from the size of John Deere to, a really small company or business that's just starting. And so for the last 4 years, I've been working in Southeast Kansas. We have been, Project 17 has now been awarded a few statewide grants. And so I'm beginning to travel across the state more. The grant that she asked me to talk to you all about today is related to e-commerce. But before I jump to that, maybe a little bit more about Project 17, because as I'm traveling around the state, and I happen to know a lot of people because my previous jobs, I started in the governor's budget office in Topeka, was a deputy commissioner of juvenile justice, worked all across the state, was a county manager, and then was a lobbyist. And so I have a lot of contacts across the state. And so some of the things that we've also done that sometimes communities want assistance with that we're not technically funded to do, but that I try to say, when I can say yes, I try to say yes, is we've started 10 anti-poverty programs. We were with Circles. We dumped Circles, and Elaine Johannes and I are using curriculum, which is actually on my website for free through extension that we've posted, and I've password protected some of it so that the Circles doesn't steal it, frankly. But that if your communities are thinking about starting an anti-poverty program, like I know Clay Center, I heard recently Clay Center is thinking of starting one. Please feel free to connect them with me. We've done it 10 times. We've had success. We've had failure, sometimes massive failure. And I think it's good to know all of those lessons learned before a community sets off on that path. In relation to economic development.
Heather, can we interrupt with a question or a comment there? So
yes, sure.
that anti-poverty in Belleville, we're doing the Hanson strategic doing. And one of the committees that has been set forth is working out of poverty. And so we've got a committee working on that very thing. So we will be in touch.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm happy. You'll see soon, John, how much time I've been spending up your way. So it's no problem for me to co-schedule something so I can talk with that group. In addition to our poverty work, we have done a lot of things around broadband access. When I started the project, broadband wasn't a part of what we were doing. But the businesses said, we can't compete because we're on dial-up internet speeds and we don't have the ability to connect even to plants in other locations. And so we have also done, we were able to get the first investment from the Economic Development Administration federally into broadband pilot projects. We were also able to spur a $16.2 million private investment in broadband infrastructure, which is a trunk line through Southeast Kansas that allows communities then to build off of that line to bring high-speed internet to their community. One of the things that we learned in that process was only 20% of people in Southeast Kansas, businesses in Southeast Kansas, had a website. If you think about how the people find businesses today, I Google everything. I don't have a phone book. And so if you don't have a web presence, how do I know when you're open? How could I possibly think about, I'm not going to pick up the phone and buy something from you. You need to have your product online. It needs to be somehow accessible so that I don't actually have to talk to you to buy your product. And so out of that problem, this is actually our 4th year of this project. We did a two-year project in Southeast Kansas, helping businesses get their business online. It became apparent to me that there is a generation gap between probably people my age and younger, 35, 36 and younger, and people who are older, like the social media phenomenons. We don't have people in business who are using social media. They either say they don't have time or they say they don't know how. And so I said, who better to help those businesses than K-State students? And so the project that we put together was me leading the way and initially meeting with businesses in the communities and talking about the problem and why we have to sell online. I frequently say, you're not going to get 1,000 people down Main Street in Clay Center, Kansas, and they're going to be the same 1,000 people day after day. So how do you get new customers if they're not going to come down Main Street? And the only way to do that effectively and cost effectively for a small business is really selling online or reaching customers that you normally wouldn't reach in your community. And so what we did is we started with K-State Business Marketing students, the Strategic Sales Institute's club, and the NAMA students, the Ag Marketing Club, and those students work with businesses. We've since transitioned away from the business marketing students because they're really trained more on strategic marketing and less on the communications and the actual website development, and less on social media, search engine optimization, those sorts of things. And so now we work with the Ag Communicators of Tomorrow ACT Student Club and NAMA Student Club to work directly with the businesses to provide them what they need. So this last week, 2 weeks ago, we had meetings in Minneapolis, Clay Center, and Concordia, asking businesses who need marketing assistance and are wanting to get into social media and e-commerce to come to our meeting to listen to me talk about the benefits of why they need to do this. Some of the business types that we've been able to help over the last 3 years are, for instance, in Iola, we helped Bullig Meat Market. They're a butcher, but they also have a deli. They wanted to create a website that had a point of sale system so that Allen County Community College students could order their sandwiches online. We've worked with businesses that were like a nursery. They were doing okay on social media, but they quite didn't understand that their customers could not find the location. You would be absolutely shocked at the number of people who don't put their address, their hours of operation, or even basic contact information on their website or social media. What's apparent to some people isn't apparent to all. I was in Bennington. One of the clients that came out of the meeting in Minneapolis was a soda fountain in Bennington. And they have a pretty fancy website. They're one of the top 9 soda fountains in Kansas. But as we were going through her website, I kept pointing out, what does this mean? This means something to you, but it doesn't mean anything to me. And so sometimes it's getting a third eye on, if you already have a website, let us look at it and suggest some new things. The other thing that people do is they say, well, I have social media. Well, how often do you post? Well, we only post about once a week, once every other week. They don't understand the analytics of Facebook. You all have probably seen on your Facebook things that are like, share, comment. Liking and sharing and commenting, the reason they're making you do that to enter a contest is because then they will get into your algorithm, so you will see them on your feed. And so we work with the clients to understand who is your customer base. Yesterday I was in Clay Center working with a jewelry business, and she said, well, I really want to make jewelry parties. And I said, so have you thought about K-State? Have you thought about sororities? Or have you thought about a dorm? Or have you thought about moms groups? Those type of groups all exist on Facebook, but a lot of times people don't understand, or what I found in Kansas, people don't want to feel like they're pushing their product. There's a business in Clifton, which clearly is rural, that did 1,675 sales on Etsy last year. Their product ranges from $20 up to $60. They did about $80,000 out of their house on Etsy related to, it's called Lark Road Rhymes. They make a poem and then put the person's name in the poem. They're doing that just out of their house. And so they're wanting to grow their sales and to sell locally. That's the other thing we found, is there are some companies that are in our communities that are not selling anything locally. I would say that that's pretty much what we're seeing. Most people say, well, my customer is overseas. My customer is outside of Kansas. We really haven't tried to market anything local. And they really don't seem to understand the benefit of networking with businesses in their community. One of the things we heard about in Concordia was they have a fantastic theater on the corner of their main business corridor. It's an outdoor amphitheater, tables, picnic tables. So when they have events down there, they have them at the evening time, but the businesses are closing at 5 p.m. Well, your customers are right down the street. And so how can you do a scavenger hunt through Main Street? How can you have, get a a coupon, make a little business card and get it punched at each location to be entered into a drawing. How are you drawing people who are naturally gathering to watch a movie down Main Street to eat, to shop, and things like that? And so really trying to stress the need to capture those local dollars at the same time as trying to expand sales outward. Functionally, the way the project works is I try to meet with the business first and learn what they want to do. Our project is supposed to be focused on agriculturally based products. That can be manufactured products. It could be food, whole vegetables, anything like equipment, anything related to agriculture. The second category of product that we're supposed to be focused on is artisan. Now that is an intentionally broad term. So artisan could be anything somebody's making, creating, crafting. The other stipulations for our help are under 50,000 or under 50 employees and under $1 million in gross revenue. In our small communities, most businesses are going to be well under that. Through the 3 meetings we did 2 weeks ago, we generated about 40 businesses. Now, we are not going to be able to help all 40 of those businesses. And some people, I think, just like to see how far they can stretch what I'm going to say yes to, because we have things like rental, people who are renting houses, and some other kind of like the barber shop, things like that. But what we're really focused on and the clients that we would really like to help through this project, and I'm going to talk about a couple other resources we have available as well. Sorry, my air conditioner is going crazy here. A couple of other resources that we have that are targeted to different sectors of the business, but we really want to help people who have a good product, are serious about growing their business, and want to create jobs. Getting that wealth back into the local community, whether it's hiring a high school kid or hiring a part-time person or a full-time person, those are the businesses that we want to help support and grow their business. If they have a fantastic product but nobody knows about it, let's help them, because that might be the next big thing for your community. Some of the other businesses that we are currently helping, there's a lady who wants to start a toy museum in Clifton. I went there yesterday. It's an interesting place, and there are a lot of toys in this museum. And so this has been her dream. She just needed a pamphlet and a logo. That is very simple. I will give the information to a student. The student will do the work. I pay the student club $20 per hour for the student's time. The student club will then pay the student $10 an hour to do the work. Our issue has not been too many businesses or not enough businesses. The issue has been not enough students who want to work. We actually have had quite a few students do the work, and they don't ever bill the hours. And so from a grant management perspective, that's a little difficult because we have a lot of money to pay them, but they don't want to be paid. They just like to do the work. And so what we're trying to teach students is, A, you have to keep your hours. B, you have to document your work. C, you have to turn in your hours. Then you need to follow up if you're not being paid by your advisor. Some of those life lessons that we would, people in the real world would probably say something if they're not getting paid. We found that students don't do that. And so we're really trying to, on the students' businesses, and help teach them how to interact with clients. So I mentioned Lark Road Rhymes. We have restaurants, the soda fountain, number of restaurants, a number of agriculturally related products. Someone who's manufacturing a tree shear for a skid steer. Their sole customer had been Can-Equip. They want to get into new markets, and so we're helping that person. A plastic injection molding company, someone who is selling grill guards, hydro beds, and flatbeds for trailers. They aren't the one manufacturing them, but they're being manufactured by other companies in Abilene, Glen Elder, and Sabetha. And so again, while we're not directly helping that manufacturer, we're helping that manufacturer by helping this distributor distribute more product across Kansas, which really goes to the goal of trying to increase sales. We're also helping artisans, jewelry makers, and someone who wants to be who's working on a gunsmith business. It really depends on what the person needs and what we think we can provide them with. One of the other things that I'd want you to know is a website alone is not enough to actually drive sales, because driving the Google Analytics of how you would ever be found in Google is difficult. And so what we try to get people to do is, you need to have, depending on your business, either a really robust Facebook page that is active, that if they contact you, you can sell your product. You need to have a payment methodology online. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And you need to be active and responsive to people on social media. Just because you private message somebody doesn't necessarily mean that the other 50 people who want to buy your product know that you didn't just ignore them. And so little things like that are really important. The other thing is, a lot of people say, well, I want a really fancy website. I want to sell my 500 products on my website. We could do that. We use Wix. It's Wix.com. That is the website that is the most easy for people to create themselves. It's $10 a month for the basic package. It's $17 a month for a package that you can do e-commerce on. One of the challenges we ran into early in this project was people who are at like a craft fair or the farmer's market and having a point of sale system that goes with your iPhone. There's a product called Square that plugs into the bottom of your phone. That would seem to be a very simple solution. I can tell you it is anything but simple to get it set up properly and working back with your bank account, because a lot of it goes off of Wi-Fi internet when you're out and about. And if you're in rural Kansas and you're at 3G, getting that transaction to go through when you're really busy can be a problem. We also steer people away from PayPal. PayPal is sort of a last generation type of product. There's a new product called Stripe that we would direct people to rather than PayPal. But really, we suggest going directly to have a credit card, the availability to take a credit card directly on your website. You don't have to have any other third-party account. And that way the money hits the credit card and it hits your account. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to pay the credit card fee. We tell them, increase your prices to cover and expect 95% of people to pay for the credit card. The soda fountain in Bennington, for example, they only take cash or check. I never have cash or check. And most people that are of a certain generation don't have cash or check either. And so helping people understand that just because it works in your small rural community for your local folks, if you're trying to get new customers and people to come off the road, you have to change your business methodologies to be convenient for your customers. And so that's been another really difficult challenge, trying to get people to understand that. If you have a business that you're like, they would be awesome, they have tremendous growth potential, they're really great, we can take anyone that's in a small community, 50,000 or under is small in USDA terms, across Kansas. They would probably be on for second semester unless they would potentially qualify in one of the other programs I'm going to talk about after we answer questions about this one. So with that, like I said, we are very full with North Central Kansas companies. We're actually working with a company out of Pratt too. That's where I'm from. I saw them on social media and said they needed some help. They were doing pretty good social media, but I knew that we could help them get to the next level. So we also have a company in Pratt that we're working with. But most people are in North Central Kansas this semester. We'll be having a different group of customers next semester. So if you have someone that you think would be great, you can email me. My email is heathermorgan@ksu.edu. And we can put them on sort of the waiting list for potential help next semester. So with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions on this program. I think Nancy's going to unmute you all, maybe.
Yeah. Let's see. There we go. Now you're all unmuted if you'd like to ask a question.
Heather, this is Cindy in Topeka. You said that you did a workshop, just a couple of weeks ago when you got these 40 businesses. So is that something that you would repeat like next semester in Northeast Kansas, or?
Yeah, I wanted to offer that. So if you had, as long as you're not like in liberal, if you're in liberal, we might have to talk about that. But I get around the state enough that if it's no problem for me and to come and do a 1 hour, like, hey, this is lessons learned, best practices, things you might want to consider when thinking about e-commerce and social media. I can do that in about an hour. The other value added thing that I do in addition to that is talk about the other resources that are available for rural businesses. There are a lot of resources in this state that are going untapped and funds that are not being utilized through rural development, through Kansas Department of Commerce, that are being farmed out to different groups. And so I think it's important to make sure businesses understand all of the resources that are available to them. And I think sometimes the businesses that have relationships with extension are different than the businesses that might have a relationship with economic development. And so sometimes you all can get a different group of businesses that need just as much help as somebody else, but they think, oh, my business is small to get help from economic development. Well, it might be small today, but it might be the next big thing. And so it's our belief that we need to help all businesses have access to the information they need to be successful. So if you wanted to schedule one in Topeka, I'm certainly through here enough that I could do an hour-long event, whatever.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, you're unmuted again if you want to ask questions.
Heather, my Kansas Crossroads Resource Conservation and Development Area group we've done some agritourism workshops in the past, and so we're looking at doing another one of those. Being a presenter on something like that, is that something that you could do?
That is, and actually 2 of our clients I didn't mention. One is the Clay County Tourism Group. Vern Swanson and I met yesterday. And we're also working with the city of Wakefield and Clay County Economic Development on their branding and messaging and their city's website. And so I think definitely agritourism is one of the things that is missing. We talk a lot about day trips. So if you think about getting to, from Manhattan to Clay Center is not far. But if I'm going from Manhattan to Clay Center, what am I going to do all day? Well, we need to set up. You're going to have breakfast here. You can go to these antique stores. You can go to this pool. You can go to the wetland. The Kansas Arboretum is something I'd never heard of that they were talking about yesterday. And so setting up day trips or options for things for people to do is really important, because if they don't know where to go, they're likely to go home. And so you want them hitting as many businesses and restaurants as possible on the way. And so I think agritourism is absolutely a piece of that.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Great question.
Okay. I want to talk about a couple other programs so that you all are aware. Maybe you can put everybody back on mute while I talk about the next ones, and we'll unmute you again. AMI, the Manufacturing Institute, has been awarded, 3 pots of funds. One of them is called Jumpstart Kansas, and I think you guys will be today. That was a partnership with Thad Jackson and the K-State Entrepreneurship Center to help entrepreneurs, basically with a $10,000 grant free to entrepreneurs to grow their businesses. That money has now been used up, but we've also been awarded 2 more pots of money, neither of which is being publicly advertised, and I don't believe they will be. It's sort of our people that we know and through our networks like you all that we're trying to find who we're going to help with those funds. The first pot of funds is called Rural Innovation Funds. They are targeted for companies that are producing a product who need engineering assistance or product development assistance. You might think, well, you're only manufacturing or helping people like on farm equipment. We do things like we've been helping someone put a pizza in an ice cream cone. There's a lot of engineering on how the cone doesn't get crushed when you put the pizza in there and cover it with cheese. We've worked with a lot of food companies, a lot of railroads, a lot of things like drone, UAS. We're starting to get really into UAS. We have partnerships with both K-State Olathe and Polytechnic. We are on consulting agreements with both of those campuses for their business development as well. So if you have somebody who's making something or they need stress testing, we just made a new product for a company in Fort Scott that is like a metal tank that like you see on a railroad car or the back of a truck. Mostly you see the plastic ones here, but in third world countries, they're hauling their water in these tanks, and they needed they had a big tank and they had a little tank and they needed a mid-sized tank. That sounds really easy, but in order to get all of the water out of the tank, so the water is safe and you don't have like yucky water sitting on the bottom, it's important how the spigot works is really important. And so we were able to design a new spigot system. We've also worked with railroads, the railroad company. When trains are refueling, there was a lot of fuel spilling onto the ground, which is an environmental issue and a cost issue. And so we worked with a company that made, we called it Spillex, that when you break away the fuel, you don't have that dripping onto the ground or maybe not dripping, maybe pouring onto the ground of the fuel. So if you have a company who has any sort of process challenge, needs a new product, thinking about it, we can do that for half price. The Kansas Department of Commerce will match the dollars that they've given us with the company's dollars. We've worked with Great Plains, with the company out of Marysville. It's like, I can't land all, we've worked with the big manufacturers, but our sweet spot is medium to small manufacturers. That's where the biggest growth potential is. And if they get a new product, that's really important for their business. The second part of funds we just received from Network Kansas, and I hope you all know about Network Kansas. If you don't, we'll put that, ask me in the questions if you don't know about Network Kansas. Network Kansas received those funds from the Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City, Missouri. Those funds, we are able to work with any goods producing company that wants to develop new products, grow jobs, or one other thing, which it just escaped me. But the big thing is growing jobs and product development, and it can be anybody who's producing a good. And that is technical assistance from patent searches, copyrights. One of the things we run into a lot is everybody thinks everything needs to be patented, and it's a waste of money, because if you can change one little thing, your patent's null and void. And so we really work with companies to say, is this the best use of your money to patent this, or is there another way to go about it? We can provide market research, market intelligence. We're going to use those funds for the company that's doing out of Minneapolis, which is doing the tree skid steers, because they've not tried to market it anywhere else. So we can tell them who their likely customers are. We have a ton of data analytics within our shop that we could tell you pretty much every company in Kansas, how many employees they have, what their gross revenue it has, because this data set pulls things off tax returns. And so by NAICS code, which is just a categorization, it's like the Dewey Decimal System, but it's an economic development term that's used to categorize companies. We can pull that out and give that information to this company to strategically target their clients. So much of marketing is about being strategic. You don't want to just market to everybody, because everybody's not your client. And so with what little time and resource you have, making sure people are able to be strategic. And so we have that resource as well. That resource is supported by a guy on our staff named Brett Lands, who has an MBA. He does that work solely. Myself and another guy who do regional development get in that work more on the scouting, prospecting, develop the relationships with the client side, and then turn them over to Brett. So again, if you have a rural business that is producing goods that need some assistance, bring them to our attention so we can meet with them to see if they might be a good fit for either one of those programs. So with that, I'm going to stop and see if there's any more questions.
Okay, you're all up.
Hello, Heather.
Is that Ron?
Yeah, it's Ron. I've been able to listen on my phone as best I could. We're going to be meeting shortly. I just wanted to say that these are great resources, and it's been a delight working with you, and you're a great asset to rural Kansas, and keep up the good work.
No, thanks. Ron and I are getting ready to meet because we have another grant that hasn't been really publicly announced, but it's related to food in Southeast Kansas. Education, aggregation, and distribution of local food. So helping local food producers grow their bottom line.
Could you speak a little bit more to the grant that's coming out of Kauffman?
So the money coming out of Kauffman is related to helping goods producing companies develop more products or grow jobs. The money can be used for technical assistance. So like if somebody has an idea for a product, but they haven't designed the product, and they say, I have a product, but I want to get it patented. For example, some of us were at Independence Community College recently at the fabrication lab there, and they had actually a health product was created out of there related to measuring some of the vital sign measurements. So that person does not know what to do with it. They have a great idea. They say, from my experience as a nurse, I think this is marketable. What we would then do is say, okay, who are your competitors in the market, and help you do the research to find out, do you have competitors? Should you patent it? Do you have to make this at a medical grade plastic? The regulatory hurdles. And then we would say, okay, there doesn't look to be a lot of competition in this market. Go ahead. And then we say, well, what would the price point be? Who are your customers? We firmly believe that before a business invests a lot of money in something, they need to make sure it's going to sell. And so how do we help people fail fast or succeed in a very smart way? Because we know that the capital that these businesses have is limited. And so we try to help them make the best, most intelligent step forward. We're sometimes the people who have to say, yeah, that sounds cool, but nobody's going to buy it. And honestly, that's probably the best service somebody can give to some of these businesses. You hate to crush dreams, but better to crush a dream before you go bankrupt than not be realistic with the client. And so it's really about that technical assistance, one-on-one, sitting down with them. We oftentimes will then do like a minimally viable prototype for them and see, yeah, you say that this widget's going to operate this way, but when we actually manufacture the widget, it breaks in 2 seconds. That's another thing they need to know.
Could you say the group though, that there was a group that you called?
Network Kansas?
Network Kansas. That's what I wanted to, thank you.
Yeah, so Network Kansas is a resource to every business in the state. Steve Radley is the CEO of Network Kansas. They are the ones who sponsor the e-communities across the state. And the e-communities, FYI, have money. They have 2 pots of money, each one. One is the administrative portion of e-community money, which the community can use to invest in any entrepreneurship type activity. They can sponsor youth entrepreneurship fairs. They can do basically anything related to business support with their admin money. And then they have another pot that is for loans out to small businesses. So if you have an e-community, I frequently, when I'm out and about, if I know they have an e-community and they tell me they have no money, I say, I know you have money. You have e-community admin money. I'm known to get, they can buy food with that. So food for the meal, or food for the, I'm doing a seminar, you can buy food. You can have snacks or lunch or sandwiches or whatever. A lot of that, Network Kansas is a mystery to a lot of people, but they support a lot of entrepreneurship activities across the state. The other thing to know, interestingly, we talked briefly about the Fabrication Lab in Independence. Actually helping Salina, we have a grant application in with K-State Polytechnic and the North Central Regional Planning Commission that we're looking at helping them get a community fabrication lab, which means that entrepreneurs there can go and do 3D printers and laser engraving and CNC operations for a very low cost. They can make products there for a cost that's a tenth of what they would have to pay if they were to go to professional fabrication shop. And so again, what our job is and what Network Kansas's job is to try to help support communities to figure out how to best support the local business ecosystem. And so Network Kansas has a lot of different resources as well. And we consider ourselves the linkers and leveragers. So like, I know people at USDA Rural Development, I understand their programs. I can talk to somebody about that. I can make that warm handoff, so to speak. Warm handoffs are so important in this because it's really odd that someone who has enough guts to start their own business and has their own money on the line is often is fearful, or, well, I'm not big enough or I'm not good enough to make the call without a little bit of hand holding along the way. But once those connections are made, it really goes a long way. Maybe I'll mention USDA Rural Development as well. So we've been fun. We have multiple grants through USDA Rural Development over the past 4 years. They have a lot of programs that can help businesses related to energy. Like if someone's improving their coolers at their quick shop, grocery store, whatever, they can match that cost with some of their funds. Whether if somebody's putting a new heating and air conditioning system that's more efficient, I would recommend any business who's making a large capital investment that's going to result in energy savings to talk to rural development prior to making that investment. One of the clients I was working with this week said, well, my husband's against subsidies. Somebody's getting that money and it might as well be you. And so making sure that businesses understand all of the programs that rural development can help with as well is really important. You know, with the change in the presidential administration, some of that may change, but some of it may not. And in my experience, things get done in the state because of relationships with funders, with other people across the state. And so it's not necessarily always that there is no money, it's that there's money, but people don't know how to access it, and resource that people don't know how to access. So any way I can help any of you connect to resources or people, I love to rattle state government cage too. You got any KDHE issues? It's like one of my specialties.
This is fantastic, Heather. As I listen to you, I'm thinking about other maker spaces around the community. And for example, 712 Innovations, they're in Topeka. And I'm wondering if there's things that we can learn from what you're doing down in Independence.
Yeah. I think that community maker spaces are becoming more and more popular. I think that there are some lessons learned going forward. The interesting thing is, so going into the Salina community, this started through a conversation with actually K-State Polytechnic wanted me to take them to Independence. So 12 of us got in the K-State 12-passenger van and drove to Independence from Salina. 2 people flew in the plane too, but when they came back, they said, why don't we have this here? And so I think there are some lessons about how to link and leverage assets. Again, it's not just a money problem. Like, what assets do we already have in the community? One of the nice things about Independence is, yeah, they got a seed grant from Kauffman. Kauffman's no longer making that type of investment. But now they have businesses who are buying a piece of equipment for their business and just setting it in the fab lab because they're only going to use it once or twice a year. And so it's about crowdsourcing that investment that somebody's already making. And rather than have this piece of equipment that's never being used sitting in a business, why not allow others to use it too? There's some tax ramifications for that, I'm sure, about 501c3 and donations and things like that. But as you think about the resources in rural Kansas and how we pair those and get those together, that's what's going to make us successful, because we can't all have a fab lab. But can we regionally have a fab lab? And how can we get schools using it? And how can social service organizations be using that to benefit their clients, and in addition to small business? So it's really about thinking differently about, oh, well, it's a money issue. Well, my experience is it's really rarely a money issue. If you can get all the politics worked out and everyone's happy, that's much harder than finding the money.
Heather, that brings up a point. Again, the strategic doing in Cloud County that we did the other night. Todd Leaf is at Cloud County Community College, and he is really interested in what he's calling a do-it side, or like you say. And we've had a lot of people talking and ask if there's a incubator kitchen in the area as well. And so that would be a great, I need to get you together with Todd and talk about the possibilities that we might do up there.
Yeah, John, thanks for mentioning the incubator kitchen. So I also have another project, which I'm probably going to write the grant this weekend, tweak the Salina grant a little bit with the city of Manhattan, the Manhattan Chamber, and KBED, which is Kent Glasscock's group on campus. Manhattan is interested in an incubator kitchen combined with a maker space, combined with possibly a small business incubator. The way you pair those assets are really important and critical. And so I know that there are a lot of commercial kitchens across the state. One of the things I also want to mention is K-State Olathe has a commercial kitchen. We have some funds for Southeast Kansas food-based businesses that if they need labeling, nutritional testing, we have a grant that can help them pay for that. Randy Phoebus is the new director of the K-State Food Science Institute. He took Curtis Kasner's place. We've been meeting together, and the food group at K-State is really interested in helping some of our food producing businesses. The K-State Global Food Systems is not just a name or something we're bantering about. There really are faculty members who are trying to help companies locally and all over the world. And so the commercial kitchen aspect of that is important too. The strategic doing, I'll mention that. We are actually, so I and Jeff Tucker and Dale, our other regional development person, we are all certified by Purdue in strategic doing. We're taking K-State Olathe through that on Thursday of next week, and we're have invited the CEO of Polytechnic. So The strategic doing process is sound. How they're doing it with the Hansen is slightly different than Purdue probably recommends, because Purdue recommends a longer time frame. But we have found strategic doing to be absolutely effective. And even if we don't tell people we're doing strategic doing, we're doing strategic doing with them.
Right.
Because in order to get to consensus quickly, you have to have a process to do that. And so if you have an opportunity and a process that looks like it's going to be messy, I would encourage you to do the strategic doing process. I'm actually doing the strategic doing process at a high school here on the 28th of September. I'm doing a leadership thing and a strategic doing thing related to that community, figuring out a way to get their high school kids and their community talking better together to do a project. So
Right.
I would encourage you, if you haven't been exposed to that, go and see an event, go and see how it works. It can help move groups forward that are not necessarily best friends with each other.
Thank you. I'll be in touch on that for sure.
Okay. Any other questions? We have 15 minutes left, and Ron and I have to jump off of here.
So when we talk about just who already knows about you, have you already talked to like Karen Christilli at 712 Innovations?
45 minutes to an hour.
No, I've not talked with 712 Innovations at all. 712 Innovations came on board after we had already helped Independence start theirs. So Independence Community College was the first community fabrication lab. 712 Innovations is a little different model because I think it's more of a private operation versus independent. So I know of 712. I've not talked with them.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I mean, I think there's several opportunities here that we could just benefit from hearing from all these resources, because we've got a new entrepreneurship task force. So I'll contact you privately.
Shoot me an email. Yeah, shoot me an email. That's the best way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask, you mentioned the strategic doing process with K-State Olathe next week. Is that next Thursday morning by any chance?
It is.
Okay, so I'll be there. I'm from Johnson. This is Tara Markley. I'm from Johnson County Extension. And
Well,
so
you'll meet me then.
yes, we've been really working with K-State Olathe because there's such a connection between Extension and what they're doing. So that's why we'll be at the table. So I'm excited to hear that you'll be there.
Awesome.
Thank
We're
you.
excited. We've been working with them pretty intensively.
Yeah.
Nancy and Heather, this has been just like, open the floodgates of information here this morning. One, you talk 100 miles an hour, and I'm sure you have to. No, that's fine. I mean, it sounds like in your world you have to move at that pace to possibly keep up, but it's a little bit overwhelming. Is there a way we can kind of get this and, information to us in hard copy kind of a thing? So I'm not a great note taker anymore, and so I've got written down about 2% of what you've said.
Well, that's a good question. I think that it would not be a bad idea to certainly send out my contact information. I think that we could send out information related to some of the other resources across the state. Definitely, like a little fact sheet. The ones I've mentioned today. Maybe Nancy.
Just a brief overview that kind of gives us an idea that, okay, if
your community is looking at this and this, here, call and get some ideas before your community thinks that they have to, plow the field by themselves.
Right. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Definitely.
Heather, that's tremendous. And I had another comment from another agent about the same thing. So anything you can do to give us a fact sheet. We have, just FYI, we've had 12 agents on with you today. And I'm with you, John. This has been just tremendous. And I feel a little bit like I'm getting a fraction of what I should be getting out of this. So maybe we should do it again next semester, Heather. We'll have to consider that and get another audience.
I'm about empowering others to help communities make investments that make sense and to use their time in a way that will help result in a product that will truly make an impact in the community. And I think that all of us knowing what's worked, successes and failures, and what to avoid is absolutely critically important. So I'm happy to share what's worked with us and what hasn't worked, and not to say that's going to be the exact same in your community, because every community is different. But I want to know if something failed miserably so I can try to avoid that, and I'm sure you all do too.
Yep. And you know, we say that the purpose of these calls is to connect agents with the experts, education, and economic resources that they need to help small businesses and their communities. And this has sure been a great one for that today. And anything you can send out to us to reiterate that would be tremendously helpful.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful by next semester. We have another pending grant application with USDA Rural Development that's a statewide grant. And if that's awarded, it would be a little bit of a game changer and allow me to really work out with small communities, especially low-income communities, to try to help some of these cities and counties that don't have professional city-county management make better decisions with taxpayer dollars, which Extension's funded with taxpayer dollars. And, you know, and you all have to deal with your local boards. And that's so important. If we're going to keep things in rural Kansas, we can't make investments that don't make sense. So.
Wonderful. Well, one more chance for one last question. Okay, yeah, Carl Garten and Salina says, yes, we need to do this again. So thank you so much, Heather, and I'll let you and Ron get to your meeting, and we'll look forward to anything you can send us to reiterate what you said today. And next month, our topic will be USDA grants to help local communities with Jessica Bowser from the USDA. Thank you all for joining us today, and I hope you'll join us again next week. We'll send
Let me report to you my email address one more time since I talk so fast. The best way to reach me is heathermorgan@ksu.edu. If you guys want to contact me directly, which is what I would recommend.
Thank you so much, Heather. Very good today.
Okay, thank you.
I'll send out the recording link to all of you after the fact. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nancy. Bye.
Bye.